Part 5. The second flowering, the Coalition Assembly. Hall was the largest room on Nexus Prime. It can hold representatives from every species in the Coalition. Today, every seat was filled. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds watched as Representative Yunji walked to the central platform. She was small compared to most of the species around her. She had no armor, no claws, no natural weapons. She was simply human, soft, fragile, and determined. Captain Yuna sat in the Valari section, watching with all four of her eyes. Lieutenant Taiho sat beside her, his scales shifting through colors as his emotions changed. Ambassador Hemon stood near the back, his wooden face unreadable. "Thank you for coming," Unji began. Her voice was carried by speakers throughout the hall and broadcast to every world in the Coalition. "I know many of you are confused. I know many of you are afraid. The news about humanity has caused great debate. Is it true? Can we be trusted? What do we want?" She paused and looked around the room. She saw fear in many faces. She saw anger in others. But she also saw hope in some. That hope gave her strength. "Let me answer your questions honestly." She told them everything. She told them about Hana and the ancient ship. She told them about the founders and their mission to fill the galaxy with life. She told them about the terrible war against the silence. She told them about the choice to forget and start over. When she spoke about the silence, a murmur ran through the assembly. Some species had legends of a great darkness in ancient times. Others had found ruins on their worlds that seemed to have been destroyed by something unstoppable. The truth connected many pieces of history that had never made sense before. "The silence is still out there," Yunji said. "We do not know when it will return, but it will return. And when it does, it will not care about politics or borders. It will try to consume all life in the galaxy, every species, every world, everything you love." She let the words sink in. The assembly was silent. Millions of years ago, our ancestors fought the silence alone. They won, but the victory broke them. They lost almost everything. They decided to start over because they wanted to prove that the spirit of life is stronger than any weapon or technology. Yunji stepped forward, her eyes sweeping across the crowd. "We are not here to rule you. We are not here to demand worship. We are not gods or kings. We are your parents, yes. But parents do not own their children. Parents create children to become something new, something wonderful, something that can surpass them." In the Kathrani section, Commander Hunsik sat in chains. He had been brought to the assembly to face judgment for his attack on Earth. But now he listened to Yunji speak, and he felt something strange in his chest. It might have been shame. "When we made you," Yunji continued, "we did not want servants. We wanted family. We wanted the universe to be full of voices instead of empty with our own. Every species here, every person listening to my words, you are what our ancestors lived for. You are their legacy. You are their children." She raised her hand toward the ceiling, where holographic images began to appear. They showed the defensive systems throughout human space. They showed ancient ships waking up around a dozen worlds. They showed technology that could change the war against the silence. These weapons, these ships, these defenses, they were built for you. Not to control you, to protect you. Our ancestors knew that one day the silence would return. They knew that we would need every advantage to survive. So they hid their best technology and waited for us to be ready. Yunji lowered her hand. The holograms faded. But technology alone is not enough. The silence was driven back once, but our ancestors paid a terrible price. They fought alone because no other species was strong enough to stand beside them. Her voice grew stronger. "This time, we are not alone. This time, there are thousands of species in the galaxy. This time, We can stand together." She looked directly at Commander Hyunsik. "I know the Kethrani are warriors. I know you respect strength. You attacked us because you thought we were weak. But true strength is not about destroying your enemies. It is about protecting those you love. Our ancestors understood this. That is why, when we defeated your fleet, we did not kill a single Kethrani soldier. That is why Commander Hyunsik is still alive." Hyunsik met her eyes. He expected to see anger or triumph. Instead, he saw something he had never seen in an enemy before. He saw forgiveness. "We do not ask for your surrender," Yunji said to the assembly. "We do not demand loyalty. We offer something different. We offer partnership. We offer a chance to stand together against the darkness." She spread her arms wide. "All of you, every species, every world, you are what we live for. You are what we died for. You are the reason our ancestors chose to forget everything and start again. They believed in you. They believed that one day, when the darkness came, you would rise to meet it." Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but every being in the hall heard her clearly. "We will not let the silence take our children. We will fight. We will protect you with everything we have. This is not a demand for service. This is a promise." Silence filled the assembly hall. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Captain Yuna stood up. Her 4 eyes were bright with emotion. She placed her hand over her heart in the Valari gesture of respect. "I stand with humanity," she said. Lieutenant Taiho stood beside her, his scales glowing gold. "I stand with the founders." One by one, representatives began to rise. The Valari, the tree people, species that had never trusted each other, species that had fought wars against each other. They stood together now, united by something larger than their differences. Commander Hyunsik watched from his chains. His people had always believed that strength meant conquest. But now he saw a different kind of strength. He saw beings choosing to stand together, not because they were forced, but because they believed in something. Slowly, painfully, he rose to his feet. Every Kethrani eye turned to him. He was their commander. His next words would speak for all of them. "The Kethrani have never followed anyone," he said. "We have never bowed to any species." The assembly held its breath. "But we are not fools," Hyunsik continued. "We know a worthy ally when we see one. We know a war worth fighting when it comes." He straightened his shoulders despite his chains. "The Kethrani stand with humanity, not as servants, as warriors. When the silence comes, we will be ready." Yunji smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had allowed herself in days. "Then let us begin." Far from Nexus Prime, far from Earth, far from everything the Coalition knew, ancient machines continued to wake up. Ships that had slept for 3 million years powered their engines. Weapons that had defended the galaxy once prepared to do so again. And everywhere, beings of every species looked up at the stars with new eyes. They were not alone. They had never been alone. Their parents had been watching over them all along, waiting for the day when they would be ready to stand together. The founders had returned. Not as masters, but as the humans they had always been at heart. Dreamers, protectors. The species that looked at an empty universe and decided to fill it with life and love. And at the edge of the galaxy, where darkness gathered between the stars, the silence felt the light growing stronger. It had waited patiently for millions of years. It had watched its enemies scatter and forget. It had believed that when it returned, there would be no one left to stop it. It was wrong. The children of humanity were awake now. The family was together. And this time, when the silence came, it would find not a broken civilization fighting alone, but a galaxy united. The second flowering had begun, and somewhere in the vast dark between stars, the silence began to move. The final war was coming, but humanity and their children would be ready. They ruined our world. Earth responded with no mercy. Part 1. The Day the Sky. Burned. Captain Yuna stood at the observation window of the Horizon Shield space station. Below her, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. She had protected this view for 15 years. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. The year was 2247. Humanity had finally stopped fighting each other. The old wars were finished. Nations had joined together under the United Earth Council. Humans had built cities on Mars. They had mining stations in the asteroid belt. Life was good. Life was peaceful. Yuna sometimes wondered if it would last. Peace felt strange after so many centuries of war. But she hoped her children would never know conflict. She hoped they would only know this beautiful blue world. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Hana, walked up beside her. Hana was young, only 26 years old. She had sharp eyes and a quick mind. Yuna trusted her completely. "Captain," Hana said, "we are getting strange readings from near Jupiter." Yuna turned away from the window. "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures. Big ones. Nothing we have ever seen before." They walked to the command center. On the main screen, a swirling hole had opened in space near Jupiter. It was a wormhole. Scientists had talked about these for centuries, but no human had ever seen one. Ships came through. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. They were huge and dark, shaped like insects with many legs. They moved in perfect formation, like a single mind controlled them all. "Contact Admiral Dowan," Yuna said quietly. Now, within hours, the entire Earth fleet was on alert. Admiral Dohan, the Supreme Commander, was an old soldier. He had fought in the resource wars when he was young. He had seen death and destruction. But even he had never seen anything like this. The alien ships stopped near Mars. Then they sent a message. It came in broken human languages, pieced together from old radio signals that had traveled into deep space. "Your world. Our harvest. Resistance is calculation error." The message was clear. These aliens, whoever they were, had come to take Earth. They expected no fight. They expected humans to simply give up. The United Earth Council chose peace first. They always chose peace first. Ambassador Jisoo volunteered to meet the aliens. She was the best negotiator humanity had. She had ended 3 civil conflicts with her words alone. She believed that all thinking beings could find common ground. Jisoo traveled to the alien command ship alone. She carried gifts and messages of friendship. She carried hope. 2 days later, pieces of her body rained down on Seoul. The aliens had cut her apart and sent her back as an answer. There would be no talking. There'd be no peace. The message was clear. Humans were not worth speaking to. Dr. Taiho watched the news from his laboratory on the moon. He was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied the possibility of alien life. He had spent 30 years hoping to find proof that humans were not alone in the universe. Now he had his proof. He wished he could take it back. Taiho was 52 years old. His wife and daughter had died in the Pacific megaquake 16 years ago. Science had become his only family. Now science told him that the aliens were preparing something terrible. Their weapons are biological, he told anyone who would listen. They do not use bombs or missiles. They use living things, diseases, poisons. We must prepare. No one listened. There was no time to listen. The attack came 3 days after Jisoo died. The alien ships moved toward Earth and released their weapons. Pods fell from the sky like rain. When they hit the ground, they opened and released clouds of green mist. The mist killed everything it touched. People fell in the streets. Animals died in the fields. Trees turned black and crumbled to dust. The oceans began to change color, turning from blue to a sick yellow. Captain Yuna watched from orbit. She could do nothing. Her weapons could not stop the pods. There were too many of them. Millions of pods fell on millions of cities. She watched Bizan, her hometown, disappear under a cloud of death. Her mother lived there. Her brother. Her childhood friends. All gone in minutes. Hannah stood beside her. Tears ran down the young woman's face, but her voice was steady. "What do we do, Captain?" Yuna did not answer. She had no answer. In 72 hours, 2 billion humans died. 2 billion. The number was too large to understand. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were now graveyards. The great farms that fed the world were wastelands. The sky turned orange from chemical fires that burned across every continent. The aliens watched and waited. They expected surrender. They had done this 40 times before, to 40 different worlds. Every species broke eventually. Every species begged for mercy. Humans did not beg. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, the surviving leaders of Earth gathered in an emergency bunker. Presidents, generals, scientists, doctors. The most important humans left alive. They sat around a table and stared at each other with hollow eyes. Admiral Dowan stood at the head of the table. He was 70 years old. He had seen the worst of humanity during the resource wars. He had believed nothing could be worse. He was wrong. 2 billion dead, he said. His voice was rough. Our cities are gone. Our farms are poison. Our oceans are dying. No one spoke. What was there to say? The aliens call themselves the Varek Dominion, Dowan continued. They have conquered 40 worlds. They have never lost. They expect us to surrender. They expect us to break. He looked around the table. He saw fear in every face. But he also saw something else. Something hard and cold and dangerous. They made a mistake, Dowan said. They think we are like the other species they have conquered. They think we will give up when things become difficult. They do not understand what humans are. He slammed his fist on the table. They do not understand what we do when we have nothing left to lose. Captain Yuna sat in that bunker. She thought about her mother, dead in Bizan. She thought about the children she would never have. She thought about the beautiful blue world that was now burning. Something changed inside her. Fear became anger. Grief became rage. Despair became something darker, something stronger. She was not alone. Around that table, in bunkers across the world, in space stations and moon bases, every surviving human felt the same change. They had tried peace. They had offered friendship. The aliens had answered with death. Now humanity would answer back. They ruined all world. Earth responded with no mercy. Part 2. The ashes remember 6 months passed. Earth was dying, but Earth was not dead. The Varek had expected surrender within days. They had never waited this long. On the 40 worlds they had conquered before, every species had broken quickly. They would cry, beg, offer anything for mercy. Then the Varek would take what they wanted and leave the survivors as slaves. Humans did not cry. Humans did not beg. Humans went underground and started planning. 60% of Earth's surface was now poison. The green mist had killed most plants and animals. 3 billion humans had survived, but many were sick. Many were starving. The old world was gone forever, but in the ashes, something new was growing. Sergeant Murray led a group called the Ashwalkers. They were guerrilla fighters who lived in the contaminated zones. They wore old hazmat suits held together with tape and hope. They ate whatever they could find. They slept in the ruins of dead cities. Myre was 34 years old. Before the attack, she had been a schoolteacher. She had taught children how to read and write. Now she taught survivors how to kill aliens. The Varak think the poison zones are safe, she told her fighters. They think no human can survive here. That makes us invisible. A team attacked Varak patrols whenever they could. They used simple weapons, knives, explosives made from household chemicals, traps built from broken machines. Each attack was small. Each attack told the aliens the same message. We are still here, on the moon. Dr. Taiho worked day and night in his laboratory. He had not slept more than 3 hours at a time since the attack. He had only when his assistant forced him to. His body was failing, but his mind was sharper than ever. He was studying the Varak biological weapons. He cut them apart, looked at them under microscopes, tested them with every chemical he had. He was looking for a weakness. They are silicon-based, he said one night, talking to himself as he often did. Their bodies are built on silicon, not carbon like us. Their technology is biological. Their ships are alive, grown from living cells. He stopped. An idea hit him like lightning. If their ships are alive, they can get sick. He worked for 3 more weeks. He barely ate. He barely slept. His assistant, a young woman named Sujin, worried he would die at his desk. But Taiho pushed forward. He had found something. He had found hope. Carbon compounds, he finally announced to the military leaders. Certain carbon-based chemicals are deadly to silicon life. Things that are harmless to humans will kill Varak cells. And if we can create a virus that targets their biological technology, we can make their ships die. Admiral Dohwan finished. Yes, we can make their ships eat themselves from the inside. On Earth, a young man named Suho was building weapons in an underground factory. He was only 23 years old. He had been an engineering student before the attack. Now he was one of humanity's most valuable people. Suho had lost both his legs in the first attack. A Varak pod had landed near his university. He had pushed 3 other students to safety, but the explosion caught him. He spent 2 months learning to use a wheelchair. He spent the next 4 months turning his anger into designs. The Varak technology is better than ours, he told Lieutenant Hana during a video call. But it is also strange. It is alive. It grows. It heals itself. That sounds impossible to beat, Hana said. Suho smiled. It was not a happy smile. Everything alive can die, Lieutenant. We just need to find the right poison. Hana was given a mission. She had to capture a Varak scout ship. The mission was almost certainly suicide. The Varak ships were faster, stronger, and better armed than anything humans had. No one had ever captured one. I will do it, Hana said without hesitation. She led a team of 50 volunteers. They used an old cargo ship as bait, making it look damaged and helpless. When a Varak scout came to investigate, Hana's team attacked. The battle lasted 4 hours. 38 humans died. Hana lost her left arm when a Varak weapon cut through her suit. But she did not stop. She could not stop. She fought with one arm, bleeding and screaming, until the last Varak on the ship was dead. We have it, she reported, her voice weak from blood loss. We have their ship. The captured scout ship changed everything. Its computer held navigation data maps of Varak space, locations of their conquered worlds, the path to their homeworld. It also held records of their previous conquests. The Varak kept no information about the species they destroyed. They did not record names, cultures, or histories. To the Varak, conquered species were not worth remembering. They were just resources to be harvested. This made the humans angrier than anything else. Billions had died, and the Varak did not even care enough to remember them. Engineer Suho and Dr. Taiho worked together using the captured ship. They studied its living systems. They learned how it grew, how it healed, how it communicated with other ships. Then they designed a weapon, They called it Vengeance. Vengeance was a virus. It would infect Varak ships and make them destroy themselves. Their living systems would turn against each other. Their weapons would fail. Their engines would die. The mighty Varek fleet would rot from the inside. While the scientists worked, the Varek Supreme Commander grew impatient. Humans called him the Harvester because that was what he did. He harvested worlds. He had never failed. These creatures are more stubborn than expected, the Harvester told his officers. We will use the final weapon. We will change their air to our air. Those who survive will serve us. Those who do not will fertilize our crops. He ordered the deployment of a terraforming bomb. It would transform Earth's atmosphere into something humans could not breathe. Every human on the surface would suffocate within days. Captain Yuna received the intelligence about the bomb. She called the surviving fleet commanders together. 47 ships. That was all humanity had left. 47 ships against thousands. She stood before them, her face calm and cold. 6 months ago, she had been a woman who loved peace. Now she was something else. Something the Varak had created. They are going to kill our world, she said. They think we will run. They think we will hide and wait for death. She looked at each commander. She saw the same cold anger in their eyes. They made one mistake. They left survivors. Today, we teach them why that was an error. Today, we show them what humans do when mercy is no longer an option. The commanders nodded. They did not cheer. Cheering was for people who expected to live. These humans expected to die. But they would not die alone. No retreat, Yuna said. No surrender. No mercy. The fleet powered up its engines and flew toward the enemy. They ruined our world. Earth responded with no mercy. Part 3. No mercy given. The Battle of Earth began on a Tuesday. It would last for 3 days. It would change the universe forever. Admiral Dohwan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Mountain. He was about to lead the main fleet into a battle they could not win. He knew this. Every human in the fleet knew this. They were not trying to win. They were trying to buy time. All ships, Dohwan said into the communication system. This is the Admiral. Many of us will die today. We have accepted this. But we do not die for nothing. We die so that others may live. We die so that humanity may survive. We die so that one day our children will look up at the stars without fear. He paused. His old heart was beating fast, but his voice was steady. It has been an honor to serve with you. Now let us show these aliens what humanity is made of. The fleet attacked. The Varak were confused. Human tactics made no sense to them. The small fleet was flying directly at thousands of Varak warships. It was suicide. It was waste. The Varak valued efficiency above all things. This was the opposite of efficient. They did not understand. Humans were not trying to be efficient. Humans were trying to be loud. The first wave of human ships crashed into the Varak lines. They fired every weapon they had. They rammed enemy ships when their weapons ran dry. They died in fire and silence, taking as many aliens as they could. The Varak turned all their attention to the attack. This was exactly what the humans wanted. On Earth, Sergeant Myray and her Ashwalkers launched their assault. Across 4 continents, teams of guerrilla fighters attacked Varak ground installations at the same moment. They had planned this for months. They had trained in secret, moving through poison zones where the Varak never looked. Myray led her team against a Varak command node in what used to be Central Europe. The node controlled communications for all Varak ground forces in the area. Destroying it would blind the aliens for hours. Her team had 12 people. The node had 200 Varak guards. Impossible odds, one of her fighters said. Impossible is what we do, Myray replied. They attacked at dawn. The Varak were not expecting it. How could they be? No human could survive in this poisoned land. No human should have been able to reach this location. But humans could do many things that should have been impossible. The battle was short and brutal. Marie's fighters died one by one. They killed aliens with guns, with knives, with their bare hands when nothing else was left. Each human took multiple Varric with them. In the end, only Marie was left. She was badly wounded. Varric blood mixed with her own. She crawled toward the central power system of the node, carrying an explosive device on her back. A Varric soldier stood over her. It was about to kill her when she looked up and smiled. 200 of you, she whispered. For 12 of us. Sounds fair. She triggered the explosive. The command node vanished in white fire. Marie and 200 Varric died together. Across the continent, Varric forces suddenly lost contact with their commanders. They were blind. They were confused. And human survivors took advantage. In orbit, Lieutenant Hana commanded the captured Varric scout ship. She had renamed it the Ghost of Soul. It looked like a Varric ship from outside. It flew with Varric identification codes. The enemy fleet did not notice it moving among them. Hana's job was psychological warfare. Dr. Taiho had helped her prepare something special. She connected to the Varric communication network. Every alien ship heard her broadcast. First, there was the sound of human children laughing. It was a recording made before the war at a school celebration. The sound of innocent joy. Then silence. Then Hana's voice, cold and hard. We remember them. Every one of them. Every child. Every mother. Every father. Every life you took. We remember. And we are coming for you. The Varric did not understand. They did not value memory. They did not value individuals. But something in that message disturbed them. Something about the certainty in Hana's voice. Then Dr. Taiho and Engineer Suho released vengeance. The virus spread through the Varric fleet like wildfire. It moved through their biological communication systems, jumping from ship to ship. Within minutes, hundreds of Varric vessels were infected. The ships began to die. It was horrible and beautiful to watch. The living hulls started to rot. Weapons fell off like dead limbs. Engines stopped working. Varric soldiers inside the ship screamed in frequencies humans could not hear, but the translators picked it up. The Varric were afraid. For the first time in their species' history, they felt real fear. Captain Yuna saw her moment. She commanded the Undying Soul, one of humanity's last battleships. It had been damaged in the earlier fighting. It could barely fly, but it could still move forward. Set course for the Harvester's command ship, she ordered. Her crew looked at her. They understood. This was a one-way trip. It has been an honor, Captain, her helmsman said. The honor was mine, Yuna replied. The Undying Soul flew through the chaos of dying Varric ships. It flew through weapons fire and debris. It flew straight toward the massive command vessel of the Varric. Supreme Commander. The Harvester watched the small human ship approaching. He ordered his guards to destroy it. But his ship was infected too. Half his weapons were dead. The other half fired too slowly. The Undying Soul hit the command ship at full speed. Yuna lived long enough to see the impact. She lived long enough to activate the self-destruct system. The antimatter core of her ship detonated inside the Harvester's vessel. The explosion was visible from Earth. A new sun appeared in the sky for a moment, bright and fierce. The Harvester died. His command ship died. 300 Varric ships nearby died from the blast. Admiral Dowan watched from his damaged flagship. His face was covered in blood from a head wound. Most of his crew was dead. But he was smiling. All ships, he said into the communicator. The Harvester is dead. Their fleet is dying. Finish them. The surviving Varric ships tried to retreat. They tried to reach the wormhole to escape back to their territory. The vengeance virus was spreading too fast. Their engines were failing. Their navigation systems were corrupted. They did not make it. Dowan gave one final order. No survivors. They showed us none. We returned the favor. Human ships hunted down every Varik vessel. There was no mercy. There could be no mercy. Not after what the Varik had done. Not after 2 billion dead. The battle ended on Friday morning. The Varik fleet was destroyed. Not defeated, destroyed. Not a single alien ship survived. On Earth, the survivors looked up at the sky. The orange color was fading. The Varik weapons were dying now that their masters were dead. It would take years for the planet to heal, but it would heal. Humanity had won the Battle of Earth, but they had lost so much. Captain Yuna was dead. Sergeant Mireille was dead. Thousands of soldiers and fighters were dead. The 47 ships were now 9. Admiral Dowan sat alone in his ruined bridge. He was the most senior officer still alive. The responsibility of humanity now rested on his shoulders. What now? His aide asked. Dowan thought about Yuna, who had given her life for this victory. He thought about Mireille, who had died laughing at impossible odds. He thought about the 2 billion who had died in the first attack, whose names the Varik had not even bothered to record. Now, he said slowly, we find their homeworld. And we make sure they can never do this to anyone again. The war was not over. It was just beginning. They ruined our world. Earth responded with no mercy. Part 4. The hunt begins 10 years past. Earth was healing. Humanity was not. The blue oceans were returning. The green forests were growing again in places where the poison had faded. Cities were being rebuilt. Children were being born. On the surface, it looked like recovery. But underneath, something had changed in the human soul. Director Yunji stood in the command center of the Vengeance Fleet headquarters. She was 53 years old. Her hair had turned gray in the years since the attack. Her eyes were cold and empty, like windows into a frozen room. Before the attack, Yunji had been a diplomat. She had worked for peace between nations. She had believed in forgiveness and understanding. She had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. The green mist had taken all of them. She had held her youngest, her daughter, as the little girl died in her arms. She had watched the life fade from those innocent eyes. Something broke inside Yunji that day. Something that would never heal. Now she commanded humanity's war against the Varik. She had only one goal: the complete destruction of the Varik species. Not victory. Not surrender. Extinction. Report, she said to her aide. The 3rd Varik colony has been pacified, Director. No survivors. Yunji nodded. Good. Move to the 4th colony. Same procedure. Her aide hesitated. Director, there were civilians on that colony. Varik young. Some of them were just... The Varik did not spare our young. Yunji interrupted. Her voice was quiet. Quiet and terrible. Did they hesitate when they killed human children? Did they show mercy to babies in their mother's arms? The aide said nothing. We return what we were given. Nothing more. Nothing less. Elder Byung-ho watched these changes with sadness. He was 100 years old now, the oldest human alive. He had become the voice of humanity through his radio broadcasts. People called him the last elder. He had seen many terrible things in his long life, wars, plagues, disasters, but he had never seen humanity become what it was becoming now. We were victims, he said in one broadcast. Now we are victors. But I wonder, are we becoming the monsters we fought? Is there a line we should not cross? Some humans agreed with him. Many more did not. The pain was too fresh. The memories were too strong. Every human had lost someone. Every human carried anger in their heart. Navigator Junho sat in his small room on the flagship, calculating jump coordinates. He was 32 years old, but he looked older. His eyes were always moving, always counting, always calculating. When the attack happened, Junho was a university student studying mathematics. The trauma had done something strange to his mind. He had stopped speaking for 3 years. Doctors said he was catatonic, lost in his own head. Then one day, he started drawing numbers on the walls of his hospital room. Navigation calculations, jump coordinates, solutions to problems that humanity's best computers could not solve. His damaged mind had become something new, something valuable. The next jump will take us to the Varik industrial world, he told Admiral Hana. They build their weapons there. Their shipyards. Their factories. Admiral Hana looked at the coordinates. She was in her late 30s now. Her left arm was mechanical, a replacement for the one she had lost capturing the first Varik ship. She had risen through the ranks to become the commander of the first Vengeance fleet. How many Varik on that world? She asked. 4 billion, Admiral. Hana did not hesitate. Set course. We arrive in 6 days. Dr. Sujin worked in a laboratory on Mars. She had been Dr. Tao's student before the war. Her teacher had died 3 years ago, his body finally giving up after decades of overwork. Before he died, he had made her promise to continue his work. Make weapons, he had said. Protect humanity. But also remember, we are scientists. We seek truth. We do not enjoy destruction. Sujin tried to remember his words. It was getting harder. She had developed new horrors for the Vengeance fleet. Viruses that made Varik ships eat themselves. Chemical weapons that dissolved Varik bodies from the inside. Psychological attacks that drove Varik soldiers insane. She was very good at creating death. Sometimes she wondered what that said about her. The first Vengeance fleet arrived at the Varik industrial world. 4 billion aliens lived there. Factories covered entire continents. Shipyards floated in orbit, building the weapons that had killed billions of humans. Admiral Hana broadcast a message. Attention Varik forces. You have 1 hour to surrender. After that, we will destroy everything. Your choice. No one surrendered. The Varik did not know how. In their entire history, they had never needed to surrender. 1 hour later, the fleet attacked. The battle lasted 3 days. Varik ships fought desperately, but humanity had spent 10 years preparing for this moment. Their weapons were designed specifically to kill Varik. Their tactics were built around Varik weaknesses. Their soldiers were trained to feel no mercy. When the battle was over, the industrial world was burning. Every factory was destroyed. Every shipyard was dust. The 4 billion Varik who had lived there were dead. Hana felt nothing. She had stopped feeling years ago. Feeling was dangerous. Feeling made you hesitate. Hesitation got people killed. Report, she said. Complete victory, Admiral. 0 human casualties from ground forces. 3 ships lost in space combat. Move to the next target. The Vengeance fleet continued its march through Varik space. World after world fell. The Varik had conquered 40 species before humans. Now humans were freeing them. Most of the freed species were grateful. They celebrated when the Varik oppressors died. They welcomed human soldiers as liberators. But there was something in their eyes when they looked at humanity. Something that might have been fear. 3 species chose to fight alongside the Varik. They had been conquered so long ago that they no longer wanted freedom. They saw the Varik as their masters, their gods. Director Yunji's order for those species was simple, same as the Varik. No exceptions. Their worlds became asteroid fields. Elder Byung-ho made another broadcast. We have become powerful. more powerful than any species in known space. But power without wisdom is destruction. Power without mercy is cruelty. I ask you, my fellow humans, who are we now? Who do we want to be? Some humans listened. Most did not. The war continued. Navigator Junho had calculated the final jump. The location of the Varric homeworld. The place where it all began. The heart of the Dominion. 20 years, Admiral Hana said, standing before her fleet. 20 years since they came to our world. 20 years since they killed our families, our friends, our children. 20 years since they tried to harvest us like animals. She looked at the star maps showing the Varric homeworld. It was a large planet, covered in cities that had stood for thousands of years. Billions of Varric lived there, the center of their civilization. They thought we would break. They thought we would surrender. They thought we would forget. Her voice grew harder. We did not forget. We will never forget. And now, after 20 years of fighting, we have finally reached their home. She activated the fleet-wide broadcast. To all ships, prepare for final jump. We end this war today. We end it in fire. We end it in blood. We end it so that no species will ever again face what we faced. She paused. They came to harvest us. Today, we harvest them. The fleet jumped toward the Varric homeworld. Toward the end of a species. Toward the end of the war. Toward the answer to a question no human wanted to ask. What happens after revenge?